A combination is the best solution or the best strategy, but the question comes your bandwidth. How much time do you have? Because starting a podcast is easy, but it's also hard. So in 2021, we had the biggest spike in creating podcasts for our clients. Everybody wanted a podcast after 2020. Everyone was bored at home. And then it went down in 2022. Pod fade is what we call it. You don't make it past 3 months or 12 episodes. So what I find is that the podcasts can be easy to start, low hanging fruit, really, really challenging and difficult to maintain because people lack systems and processes and teams. You know this through running your company. Those are critical. So if you're a solo caster or a solopreneur and you're like, I'm going to do that, please keep in mind at some point you're going to have to pass this off to a team, whether you develop your own or you hire a company like ours. But then also what's happening is people who have figured that out are seeing the long-term benefits of that, because a podcast is really a long-term play. It's not a short-term. You can't go in and go, I'm going to start a podcast for 3 to 6 months, see how it goes. No, you have to commit. Now it's YouTube. You have to commit to 100 videos before you see the fruit that bears from all of that hard work and energy that you're pouring in. Yeah, going in with a long-term mindset, having a budget for it, and not just winging it, say, okay, I am developing systems and processes if I'm doing it myself so that I can document and pass this off to an editor, because it's not sustainable. You need to run your business in order to have success. You need to sell the thing that you do, but the podcast can be used for that. The podcast has to lead with value and information about, here's the thing. Information can be had anywhere, right? Go on YouTube. It's abundant. What you want to do is lead with value, entertainment. If you can be somewhat entertaining on your show, then that will draw people in, because the information you're sharing is most likely someone else is sharing it too, but no one's giving the perspective that you have from your experiences. So yeah, I would just say it's a great avenue, but just step in knowing that it's not easy, even
Yeah.
though it's easy.
So when someone knows they've heard you say, hey, it's not easy, you got to stick with it. It's still hard though. What are some tips or strategies that you offer people when they're getting into the podcast to stick with it for the long term and not get that burnout or get bored of it?
Yeah, I think that looking for results that are not realistic really deter you long term. What we need to do is flip the coin and say, who can I help and who can I serve? And look for those stories and those opportunities when you're creating your content. So, for example, many years though into my podcast journey, a listener reached out to me, and to the point where I thought we should have a conversation. And what he had shared with me over the phone was, thank you for sharing the story about how you had to fold one of your companies, because I am in the process of doing that and I'm alone. And I
Mm.
felt like such a loser. And hearing you, who he sees me for some reason as a success, trying to make my way too, just like him. But he had a business for I think 15 or 20 years, a restaurant business, and it was suffering as a result of all the madness at the time. But he said, thank you for sharing. I didn't know what I was going to do with myself. Like I felt like, I was completely a complete failure, and you sharing your story made me feel like there's a community, and thank you. Dude, I still live off the fumes of that conversation. Like, I still feel like, wow, this is the value I'm providing, because that's one person. Imagine all the people that don't reach out to you that
Hmm.
you've helped. Always take those stories, put them in your back pocket, and then create those as fuel for you to continue on your journey, to continue like, I'm helping someone. I know this is helping someone, versus where's the ROI? I'm not making my money back. It's who are you helping? Who are you serving? How are you solving? And also inspiring people to keep doing what they do, even though it may not be working. So yeah, that's where I usually land.
No, I love that story of getting that feedback and how it's still motivating you today. I get the same thing. Every random times I'll get like a text from someone in my network that I had no idea listened to the podcast. And like, hey, I really love that episode with Erik on this talking about these things. So I encourage all of you that are listening to podcasts, just like shoot a text or an email to that podcast host that you're listening to. It goes so far and helps keep those podcasts that you like and support going. It's an amazing thing. So really
So
appreciate you bringing that part up, Erik.
yeah.